Hey folks, this is Dr. Michael Briscoe again, the clinic director and owner of East Texas Institute of Natural Healing. And today I have a lot of information for you. And so I've took some time this weekend because I wanted to get all of my thoughts out of my head onto paper so I wouldn't miss a thing for you. So I want to make sure you get this information here. So today I want to talk to you about belly fat, fatigue, stress, and adrenal chaos. Okay, so I would like to start off by giving you a definition of stress that comes from an explanation from the HeartMath solution. And I quote, "Stress is the body and mind's response to any pressure that disrupts their normal balance, that expresses itself as resistance, tension, strain, or frustration, throwing off our physiological and psychological equilibrium and keeping us out of sync. If our equilibrium is disturbed for long, the stress becomes disabling. We fade from overload, feel emotionally shut down, and eventually get sick." Okay, do you get that? Now, there's different forms of stress. You have mental or emotional stress, there's physical stress, there's chemical stress, and there's also physiological stress, things that are going on inside your body. And so there's different examples, and I made a pretty thorough list of different examples of these different forms of stress. So, and these examples can happen throughout your lifetime, from the very beginning up until present day. So let's just go through this list real quick. You have different relationships that can be stressful. Financial stress, divorce, a death in the family, taking care of a sick loved one, hormonal changes from puberty or menopause, pregnancy or childbirth, illness, exposure to toxins, poor quantity or quality of sleep, poor diet with man-made processed dead foods, caffeine, nicotine, accidents or other injuries, overtraining with exercise, chronic or severe infections, parasites, fungus or yeast like candida, prescription or over-the-counter medications, chemotherapy, radiation, EMFs or EMRs, the electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic radiations from your cell phone, from the computer screen, the TV screen, surgeries, food allergies and sensitivities, leaky gut, extreme heat or cold, so temperatures from the environment, negative attitudes and beliefs, fear, holding on to anger or bitterness, not forgiving someone or not forgiving yourself, and even lies you grew up believing that distort your reality. So for example, a false belief that you're small and insignificant, or you're not smart enough or good enough. Okay? All these things are stresses, and all stresses that you experience over the course of your lifetime are cumulative. And so they accumulate to the point where that camel now has a huge haystack on its back. So your body must deal with this burden, and it doesn't discriminate between any of those forms of stresses. So it reacts to any stress, no matter what the source, as if it were a tiger trying to eat you. So think about that. No matter what form of stress or what the source of your stress is, your body is reacting in the same exact manner, as if there was a tiger trying to chase you down and eat you. Okay, so there's no difference in your body's response. It's always the same adrenaline rush, fight or flight mechanism. Okay, so for example, fear triggers more than 1,400 known physical and chemical stress reactions, and more than 30 hormones and neurotransmitters are also activated. So I drew here a picture of something in your body, and it's part of your adrenal gland's job to buffer and deal with this stress. Now your adrenal glands are located on top of your kidneys here, adrenals and adrenals here. Alright, so located on top of the right and left kidneys. And these glands are the stress glands of the body. They're the workhorse of the body, if you will. So part of the adrenal glands are a part of the endocrine system, which is your hormonal system. But not only that, they also influence other parts of the endocrine system. So everything is tied together. Other functions of the adrenal glands is not only to deal with or buffer your stress, but also they produce sex hormones. Some of the hormones that they produce, like cortisol, which we'll talk about later, has an anti-inflammatory effect in the body. The cortisol also helps to regulate blood sugar, helps to keep it up in times of you being without food, for example. In times of stress, cortisol will elevate the blood sugar. Also, the hormones have an effect on blood pressure and blood volume. They have an effect on kidney function and electrolyte and water balance. They influence the immune system. They have an effect on sleep. They are responsible for metabolizing fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, the hormones that they produce. They affect the nervous system, and the hormones, certain hormones that the adrenal gland produces will act as antioxidants to help protect your body from free radical damage. Okay, so when we talk about this fight or flight response, what I mean is like this adrenaline rush, your body's preparing to defend itself, to run away from danger, to fight off danger. Okay, that's the fight or flight mechanism. So this response is a protective mechanism of your body. It goes way back to the days when we had to fight or run away from wild animals or other people. So, but it was meant to be short-lived. It was meant to be temporary. Okay, not something long-term or drawn out. But in today's modern world, that tiger is constantly trying to eat you, so unfortunately you may be living most of your life in the fight or flight mode while beating down your adrenal glands, okay, because of a major stress load. So your adrenal glands can only take so much punishment. Okay, it's like I tell patients all the time, is you can only beat a horse to run for so long before it puckers out and falls down. Okay, so it's this stress load is dependent on the number of stresses that you are encountering, you're experiencing, the intensity and frequency of those stresses, and also the time frame these stresses have been occurring. So this load overwhelms your body's capacity to handle stress and recover from stress, which eventually leads to adrenal wipeout, adrenal fatigue. So whether we realize we're stressed or not, the body's response can be broken down into 3 stages, referred to as the general adaptation syndrome. Okay? General adaptation syndrome. So the first, like I said, there's 3 stages. The first stage is called alarm. Now this is the body's initial reaction, that fight or flight mode. So the body goes into full alert, and you have this increased adrenal response, which is short-lived. Okay, that's the way it's supposed to be. But after a period of time, your adrenal glands will get overtaxed of dealing with that, and they end up with a decreased adrenal response, which is okay, because that's when your body's recovering. All right, but if the stress doesn't go away, then you get into the second stage, which is resistance, and this is when we are seriously stressed and the adrenals are adapting. The adrenal glands have a great capacity to increase in size and increase in function. And so you end up with this hyperadrenal response. Now this is when cortisol, that hormone I told you about, is being pumped out, and this cortisol is responsible for increasing the blood sugar levels during that stress response, because your body needs that sugar for energy to fight something off or run away from something. Okay. But also that cortisol, unfortunately a negative effect of that being produced for a prolonged period of time is that cortisol is responsible for the belly fat, the midsection weight gain, okay, that everybody is so concerned about. So cortisol is also responsible for muscle wasting. So in order to increase the blood sugar levels, it's going to break down the muscle tissue in your body to be converted into sugar, to have that in the bloodstream. Okay. So this stage can last a few months or up to 15 to 20 years. So then we moved into that third stage, which is called exhaustion.